ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ Welcome to the program Reboot Punjab ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ women's empowerment ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਇਹ ਇਨੀਸ਼ੀਏਟਿਵ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ Train a Teacher Train a Teacher is an initiative of the Kalgita Trust Guru Sahib providing value-based education through Akal Academies and Eternal University ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ International Women's Day ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ Mother's Day. The whole of the program is dedicated to these occasions, both prominent occasions in the Western calendar which are very much celebrated by the youth of today. ਅੱਜ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੇਵਾਦਾਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਦਲਵਿੰਦਰ ਪਨੇਸਰ, Paramjit Mandier ਤੇ Jaswant Narwal, Chief Crown Prosecutor. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ So Jaswant Benji, a warm welcome to you to Reboot Punjab. Thank you for being with the Seva, making time to join us. So Jaswant Benji, please tell the Sangat a little bit about yourself and why education is so important for women.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you very much, Benji, for inviting me to speak about my education and to speak about kind of my journey in life. So you introduced me as a Chief Crown Prosecutor, and that's what I am. But I'm a qualified barrister, and that's what got me to being a Chief Crown Prosecutor. But it's been a long, long journey. It's not been easy. So I've worked for the Crown Prosecution Service now for nearly 32 years. So quite a long time, and I'm sure many of the younger people watching haven't been around that long. But my journey started in Bradford in West Yorkshire. I was born in Bradford and born into a family like many families. My parents worked in the woolen mills and the kind of factories. We lived in close communities. ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੈਗੇ ਸੀ ਮੇਰੇ ਤਾਏ ਚਾਚੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ. And so you had your family, your cousins around you all of the time. And it was a happy childhood. And, like everybody, we went to school. School was a great place. I always had a kind of passion and a real kind of interest in learning and just books always fascinated me. It was kind of a way to see what else was out there in the outside world. I remember kind of going to the library always, and we could borrow books. Remember libraries? We'd go to the library. We could borrow up to 6 books and then return them within a week. And I'd always borrow the maximum of 6 and return them. So I sound like a real geek, but I did have fun. I was always very sporty as well, always involved in fashion and music and other things. And so education was always around us. It wasn't something that was forced in us. My family
was it encouraged? Sorry to interrupt you. Were you encouraged by your parents or your siblings, or what made you want to embark on your journey, Benji?
Yes, Benji. So it wasn't something that was seen as something that you must do or forced to do. It was just a natural development. It was something that we were expected to do and, gently encouraged to do and supported and praised when we kind of did well. There was nothing special. I went to a state school in Bradford. It was a mixed school. I didn't have tutoring. I have children now. They're tutored and things. We didn't obviously have any kind of social media, nothing of the type at all. So education was fun. It was about learning and learning about the outside world. And for me, I'd always seen it as a journey to kind of better myself, to be able to reach my optimum, to reach my potential. And I think I was kind of recognised as being somebody always at the top of their class, not competitive in that sense, but always wanting to do my best, because those were the values that my parents kind of taught me. It was to do your best, to learn, to give. It wasn't for kind of, personal, just your own personal development. It was to be able to think about the world in a different way. It was to be able to kind of talk about what was happening, understand politics, understand the communities. So we would have discussions at home, and I think we always had the news on. So the news was always on. I'm sure many people will know.
Well, Benji, that's really good to hear, because on Jeddah, I'm sure a lot of families at home have that on, but I certainly had the 10 o'clock news and the 9 o'clock news on in the background at home when we were growing up as well. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. And I think all of that, you don't realise when you're a child. It kind of, subconsciously it's there. And when you're young, your minds are like sponges. Everything kind of goes in. You have a much broader, open mind about wanting to learn. So that was a real kind of push. And I think I did well. I did well with my O-levels. I did well with my A-levels. And I was never kind of discouraged from following a path I wanted to follow. And university and going to university for me was just a natural kind of step. And I went to university back in 1986. So it's such a long time ago. And when I went, I remember applying for university and applying thinking, oh God, my dad's never going to let me go away and live away. And at that time, we were able to have, I think, 5 options at the time. So my first option I put on there was the University of Leeds to study law and French, because I thought my dad's not going to let me go away, but I want to go to university. I know he'll let me go to university. But he didn't have an issue about it. My family didn't have an issue about me going away. They trusted me. They knew I was going there for the right kind of reasons. And because I didn't have, although my family was strict in the kind of sense, there were expectations, I wasn't held down or stopped from doing things. So it wasn't as if it was going to be some kind of freedom. I could go and abuse my freedom. So that was something which I think for me, seeing it as a natural step and a natural progression was accepted easily by the family. In fact, I did go away. I went to the University of Lancaster and I lived away, and I was the first in my family to go away to kind of university. It was a kind of revelation in lots of ways, but it was, again, wanting to progress. And I think those values, when our parents as first generation came to this country, wanted to better, wanted to make sure that they were progressing and moving forward and doing the best they could for the families. And this was just something I thought I was expected to do. Wasn't forced to do it, thoroughly enjoyed it for kind of 3 years. I studied politics in the end. I didn't study law. Although I'd applied for law, there was something about politics I wanted to, which drew me there. So it was a politics degree I did. And I was involved in the Asian Society. There wasn't a Sikh society then because there were very few Asians. I was the kind of president of that society there. I was involved in playing hockey for the university, played netball for the university. So I excelled in sports as well. And I played hockey for my county, West Yorkshire. I played it for Bradford, for the city. So I was quite good at all of the kind of sports as well. And that's part of the education. It's not formal education. It's also engaging in social activities, engaging in sporting activities, musical kind of activities. All of that is part of the broader education, I think, that I was exposed to as a kind of child. Always in the back of my mind, knowing that I had a responsibility, I think, as somebody who was the first to go to kind of university at that time, but also wanting to share my experiences at the time with others and wanting to encourage others. And all of this, again, I say I did, but not really understanding what I was doing at the time. But when I look back now and look back at that time, I suppose that's really what it was. So I did kind of graduate. I did my conversion course back to law, which is what I think I always knew I'd end up being a lawyer, but I wanted to spend some time at university studying politics because politics fascinated me. And I'm glad I did, because I knew I'd be a lawyer for a long time, and I have been. So my degree in politics served me well. I think it provided a great foundation for law. And I moved to London in 1989 after I'd graduated. My family by that time had moved to Leicester, and they were there, and I had some family in London. So I've lived in London since 1989, and I won a scholarship with the Crown Prosecution Service, so they would fund my bar finals, my bar exams, so I could qualify as a barrister. I always say it was a good investment for them because they've had me for nearly 32 years, so they've certainly got their money's worth. So it wasn't easy. It was kind of tough. I was called to the bar in 1993. When I was called to the bar, there were very few people who looked like me, who sounded like me. You can probably tell I've still got my Yorkshire accent. There are tinges of it still there. And I'm very proud to always kind of say I was from Bradford, from a kind of state school. And I, through my career, have ended up in the legal establishment as a Chief Crown Prosecutor, which is one of the most kind of senior positions in the Crown Prosecution Service, which is responsible for all the police prosecutions, and we're effectively the largest law firm in the country. But we prosecute cases which are investigated on behalf of the police and also other law enforcement agencies as well, UK Border Force, for example, too. So my role at the moment, I manage over 300 people in my area. I'm one of 14 Chief Crown Prosecutors. I'm the only second Sikh Chief Crown Prosecutor, and currently the only Asian female Chief Crown Prosecutor, the only Asian Chief Crown Prosecutor, in fact, and the only Sikh Chief Crown Prosecutor. And I'm really proud of that. And I'm proud of the kind of fact that I have a responsibility for others, for women, who look like me, sound like me, those who are from Bradford, those who think they have limitations. Yes, there are limitations, but you can break through. It's hard. You have to believe in yourself. You really have to want to do what you want to do in pursuing your career. There are sacrifices to be made on the way. It's never been that easy. And the thing they say about working twice as hard, yes, it is true, and it was true for me. I had to prove myself. I didn't have the connections in terms of having a private school education and knowing people in the establishment, or knowing other lawyers. I was the first in my family to qualify as a lawyer. So the lack of connections didn't stop me. It may have slowed me down or made me go through a different way to get to my kind of position. But I still reached the top of my profession in the legal establishment, which I'm kind of proud of.
Thank you, Benji. That's absolutely lovely. Jari Sangat kar baithi hoge, just for everything that you've covered, just from your state school up, starting from your roots in Bradford. I know I can hear that you're really, really proud. But Benji, Jari Sangat kar baithi hoge, Jari young people, it's absolutely lovely that you just explained it like that. And as you said, you were the first in your family. So thank you, Benji, for sharing that. For the Sangat, it's so important to hear about prominent Sikh women who are certainly established, Benji, and their journey. And then they are today's role models from our community. We want our Sangat, the message we want them to have is, yes, they can do this because you could do this and you have done this. And Benji, you are a trailblazer for us, so thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us.
No, that's a real honour. And I think it's important to have women like me to come back and give back and say what the journey was like, because it's still not easy. There are still challenges. Just because we have broken through it doesn't mean that the door is always open. My responsibility, and those like me in the professions, it's important that we push that door open, we establish ourselves, and we do keep that door open for those who want to follow in our footsteps as well. That's a huge responsibility we have. And I hope there's many more Chief Crown Prosecutors who come up behind me, many more barristers who come up behind me. I know there's been an increasing kind of number, but it's important that we all take that responsibility seriously and mentor, support, coach, put together associations, speak out, have a voice, and raise the kind of issues and challenge where we need to kind of challenge, and make sure that there is a rightful place for all of us in today's society.
That's lovely, Benji. Thank you, because you know that we need equal representation, and we want to see people who look like us, or people who we can identify with, and certainly, Benji, you've shown us that today. So thank you very much for that. So, Benji, we are celebrating International Women's Day and Mother's Day on today's show. So, what I'm going to do now is, Paramjit, Mandier, what would you like to say to the Sangat today about International Women's Day and Mother's Day? We heard from Jaswant Benji about her journey. So what would you like to say to the Sangat, Paramjit, Benji, about International Women's Day and Mother's Day today?
Thanks, Benji. Waheguru ji ka khalsa,
Waheguru ji.
Benji, ਪਹਿਲਾ Mother's Day, International Women's Day, ਮੈਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਸੰਗਤ ਨੂੰ ਵਧਾਈਆਂ ਦਿੰਦੀ ਹਾਂ, all the mothers out there, the sisters, ਵਧਾਈਆਂ ਦਿੰਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ। ਮੈਂ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੂੰਗੀ ਕਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਅੰਗ 473 ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਹੁਣੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਸੋਹਣੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਨੇ। ਮੈਂ ਉਹ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਸ਼ੋਰਟ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਉਹ ਦੇਖੀਏ, ਫਿਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਮਝੀਏ, ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਹਾਂ। ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, ਹੁਣ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਸੋਹਣੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਾਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਵੀ ਔਰਤ ਸਿਰਫ ਸਾਡੀ ਲਾਈਫ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਹਰ ਮੋੜ ਤੇ ਲੋੜ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ, ਜਨਮ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਮਰਨ ਤੱਕ। ਔਰਤ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਸਮਝਾਇਆ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਔਰਤ ਤੋਂ ਜਨਮ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ, ਔਰਤ ਦੇ ਸਾਥ ਨਾਲ ਬੱਚਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ, ਤਾਂ ਔਰਤ ਦੇ ਸਾਥ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਜੀਵਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਦੀ, ਵਿਆਹ, ਹੋਰ ਕਾਰਜ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ। ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ ਜੀਵਨ ਸਾਥੀ ਜਾਂ ਔਰਤ ਚੜ੍ਹਾਈ ਕਰ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ, ਔਰਤ ਹੋਰ ਭਾਲਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ। ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਮਝਾਇਆ, ਸਿੰਬੋਲਿਕ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਕਟੀਕਲ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਦੋਨਾਂ ਤਰੀਕਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਨਲਾਈਟਨ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ। ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡਾ ਸਿਗਨੀਫੀਕੈਂਸ ਹੈਗਾ ਔਰਤ ਦੇ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਸ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਦੇ ਅੰਦਰ। ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਸ਼ਬਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਾਬਕ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬਰਾਬਰ ਦਰਜਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ, ਸਿਮਿਲੈਰਿਟੀਜ਼ ਵੀ ਦਿੱਤੀਆਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਆ, ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਾਲ ਔਰਤ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡਾ ਮਾਣ ਵੀ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ। ਇਸੇ ਮਾਰਗ ਤੇ ਚੱਲਦੇ ਕਲਗੀਧਰ ਟਰਸਟ ਬੋਡੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਰ ਟੀਚਰ ਵੂਮਨ ਇੰਪਾਵਰਮੈਂਟ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਰ ਟੀਚਰ ਰਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ, ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਔਰਤ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਣ ਵੀ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾ ਸਕੇ, ਤਾਂ ਔਰਤ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਵਾਇਮਾਨ ਦਾ ਅਹਿਸਾਸ ਵੀ ਕਰਾਇਆ ਜਾ ਸਕੇ। ਭੈਣ ਜੀ, ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਭੈਣਾਂ ਤੀਵੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਐਜੂਕੇਟ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਪੀੜ੍ਹੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰ ਸਕਣਗੇ, ਹੈ ਨਾ। ਤਾਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਹੋਰ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਸਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਲੱਭਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੀ ਕਿ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਤੋਂ ਬਗੈਰ ਇੰਪਾਵਰਮੈਂਟ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਾਂਗੇ। So it's really important, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਮਰਜੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਚੱਲ ਜਾਈਏ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਔਰਤ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਸਾਰੇ ਪਾਸੇ from all directions.
Thank you, Benji. Darling Benji, ਅਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਦਿਨ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਵੂਮਨਸ ਡੇ ਤੇ ਮਦਰਸ ਡੇ ਸੈਲੀਬ੍ਰੇਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਸੰਗਤ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਘਰ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੋਗੇ?
ਹਾਂਜੀ Benji, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. Thank Benji, thank you. First of all, I feel really humbled and honoured to speak. This is such an empowering week for women. It's International Women's Day, also Mother's Day. So I just wanted to wish the Sangat and everybody happy Mother's Day, happy International Women's Day. You know, Benji, I personally have been an advocate and a huge passion for women's empowerment, women's education and women's rights. But obviously today's programme is dedicated to International Women's Day and Mother's Day. But I wanted to draw the attention to the Sangat, to our Sikh heritage and our strong Sikh women in our history. And there are so many strong Sikh women in our history. But today is a huge honour for me to speak about our greatest Mataji, Mata Giviji. So Mata Giviji, she played a huge contribution role in our Sikhi, and she was responsible for the establishment of the Langar system, which is offering free vegetarian food, which you'll see when you go to visit any Gurdwara. She also played a huge role in strong roles as a woman, and you know we can learn from that and become inspired by it. So just a bit of background to Mata Giviji. She was born in 1506 and she got married when she was quite young at 13. She was the wife of the second Guru, Guru Angad Dev Ji, and she had 4 children. So Mata Giviji, she played a huge contribution role through her acts of seva, which means selfless service. But as the wife of Guru Angad Dev Ji, she supported her husband, the Guruji, when the devotees used to go to the Guruji's home. And, you know, Mata Giviji used to offer food and ensure that it was made from the best ingredients to make the devotees feel as comfortable as possible after they saw the Guruji. And this is essentially how Mataji started the Langar service. The Langar system was started by Guru Nanak Dev Ji, but Mata Giviji later nurtured this tradition, and it was with her selfless service to the community that she offered the free kitchen. She strengthened the Langar system and she played a huge instrumental role in organising it, and she encouraged other women to join the Langar service and to work outside of their home, but still having the responsibilities and the duties at home as well. Apart from organising the Langar system, she preached equality and pursued women to lead a life that was independent. She played a huge leadership role as being in charge of the Langar system as well. And as she was preparing the food, she would ensure that everyone would recite God's name and fill the food with love and energy in Vaheguru's name. And she just made it so clear and taught us how important it is to recite the Guruji's name when you're serving food to anyone. She continued to organise and manage the Langar system, and this was then known as Givi the Langar. Giviji, she also is described as a loving, caring mother, and she ensured that all of her children knew the Bani Path, and she also taught other children as well. The most amazing thing to know is that Mata Giviji is the only woman to be named in the Sri Guru Granth Sahib on 967, and she's described as Givi, the Guru's wife, is a noble woman who gives soothing, leafy shade to all. She distributes the bounty of the Guru's langar, the kheer, the rice pudding, and the ghee in his sweet ambrosia. And if we just talk about her qualities, Mata Giviji has shown us that she's got so many great qualities as a Sikh woman. She fully immersed herself in each role as a mother, a wife, a leadership role, and selfless service to our community. And we can learn so much from her enthusiasm and love towards people. Mata Giviji was a leader, a teacher, a mother, a wife, and she was a true inspiration. And we should all take something from that, especially how we should serve humans with love and affection unconditionally. Mata Giviji had a long, productive life, but with her good humour and hospitality, she's shown us that is an essential value of our Sikh culture. She was the first woman of our era to work outside of the family home, and she handled both roles with grace and elegance, and we should honour her amazing contribution to the Sikh society. Again, Benji, it's a huge honour to speak about Mata Kiviji, and as women we need to support each other so we can support each other in help creating more Mata Kivijis. Like, she taught us so much about her qualities and how we can learn from them, especially how to become a great leader, teacher, wife, mother, sisters, daughters. And what I took from it is that she has, she had a huge heart, and she wasn't afraid to encourage other women and inspire other women and dedicate her life to selfless service. Thank you, Benji.
Thank you, Dalvinder. Benji. It's so amazing to know about these Sikh women, and thank you for telling us about Mata Kiviji today. Sangatji, I encourage you all to find out more about these historic role models and celebrate how they helped shape our Sikhi. Sangatji, on International Women's Day, we acknowledge all women's roles, be that daughter, sister, wife, and mother, all care providers. The role of Sikh women as a mother, educating and installing Sikh values in their child or children is so important. So, Dalvinder Benji, how do you see the role of the Sikh woman or mother in today's society educating a child on Sikh values? Benji, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਥੋੜਾ ਸੰਗਤ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਓ ਜੀ.
Thank you, Benji. So, obviously the role of a Sikh mother features really high in our Gurbani, and we can recognise that Mata Gujar Kaur Ji, the mother of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, who stood by the Guru Sahib Ji on every stage of his life. Mata Ji meditated with Guru for 27 years before she gave birth to Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And to raise a successful child who walks with pride on the path of Sikhi, we have to become like Mata Gujar Kaur Ji. Mata Ji teaches us how to raise our children right, and we have to uplift them, make them strong, brave and fearless, and educate them and let them spread their own wings and fly. This process begins while the child is still within the womb, and even then the vibration of Vaheguru is set by the mother's meditation and the frequency of Gurbani in her environment, which I think is amazing. Mata Gujar Kaur Ji sacrificed her husband and the 4 grandsons, Sahibzade Ajit Singh Ji, Sahibzade Jurar Singh Ji, Sahibzade Zawar Singh Ji, and Sahibzade Fateh Singh Ji for the Khalsa Panth, and to maintain our heritage and brave history. We cannot forget what this mother and grandmother did for our Sikh Panth. But just me, on my personal journey, Benji, I just want to say, it is important because I learned about Sikhi and Gurbani from my own nanny, and she, taught me when I was young the first body of the Japji Sahib. And, that always remains with me. And even watching my own mother do Bart, and this is really important because that's what encouraged me to get, start learning Bart. So it is a very, very important thing. And obviously as well, growing up and going to the Gurdwara, it is important for us to learn our Sikhi values, our Gurbani. It's the essence of our life. And not only that, we can teach our children, and that can get passed on, and especially as a woman, the fact that it vibrates within a woman when their child is being born. It's amazing, Benji.
Thank you, Benji. Thank you very much, Benji. बहुत सोना होया जिहड़ा तुसीं दस्सिया तां संगत जी काफी इंपोर्टेंट है ਜਦੋਂ ਬੱਚੇ ਜਨਮ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ ਮਾਂ ਵੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਪਾਲਣ ਪੋਸ਼ਣ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਕੁਛ ਕਰਦੇ ਪਰ ਕਾਫੀ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਦਾਦੀ ਜਾਂ ਨਾਨੀ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲਾਗੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਬੱਚਾ ਕੱਲਾ ਤਾਂ ਕਦੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਵੱਡਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹਨਾ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਨਵੋਲਵਮੈਂਟ ਭੂਆ ਦੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਭੂਆ ਹੋਵੇ ਮਾਸੀਆਂ ਮਾਮੀਆਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਫਰਜ਼ ਬਣਦਾ ਨਾਲੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਏਦਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਤੋਂ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਤਾਂ ਸਮਝ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ So Paramjit Benji, we are looking at the role of the Sikh mother in today's society, that ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਉਹ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਜਾਂ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦੀ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਸੰਗਤ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ?
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਇਹ ਸੱਚ ਐਨ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਸਵਾਲ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨੇ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ। ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਸ ਤੇ ਫੋਕਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਨਾ ਪੇਰੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਮਾਪੇ ਦੇ ਕਿ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਦੈਟਸ ਰੀਅਲੀ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ। ਤਾਂ ਡੈਲੀ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਮਾਤਾ ਗੁਜਰ ਜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕੰਟਰੀਬਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਤਾ ਗੁਜਰ ਜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਗ੍ਰੈਂਡ ਚਿਲਡਰਨ ਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਰਵਰਿਸ਼ ਦਿੱਤੀ। ਮਾਤਾ ਗੁਜਰ ਜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬਾਨ ਦੇ ਸਾਖੀਆਂ ਸੁਣਾ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਆਪਣੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਸੁਣਾ ਕੇ ਪਿਛਲੇ 8 ਗੁਰੂਆਂ ਸਾਹਿਬਾਨ ਦੇ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਸੁਣਾ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੱਡਾ ਕੀਤਾ। ਤਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ 8 ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬਾਨ ਦੇ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮਾਤਾ ਗੁਜਰ ਜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਦਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਨਕਰੇਜ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਧਰਮ ਦੀ ਵਿਦਿਆ ਵੀ ਲੈਣ, ਸਮਾਜ ਦੀ ਵਿਦਿਆ ਵੀ ਲੈਣ, ਜ਼ੁਲਮ ਦੇ ਖਿਲਾਫ ਸੱਚ ਦਾ ਸਾਥ ਲਈ ਖੜਨਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਵਧੀਆ ਪ੍ਰਿੰਸੀਪਲਸ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਮਝਾਇਆ ਨਾ, brought them up in those ways, teaching them that, and that all comes from a mother, a grandmother or a nanny. ਤਾਂ ਇਸ ਦਿਨ ਤੇ ਮਦਰਸ ਡੇ ਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਮਾਤਾ ਗੁਜਰ ਜੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਯਾਦ ਕਰੀਏ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਸਿਖਾਈਏ। ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਨਾ ਦੱਸਾਂਗੇ ਹਨਾ, ਆਪਣੀ ਹੋਂਦ ਆਪਣੀ ਐਗਜ਼ਿਸਟੈਂਸ ਨੂੰ ਖਤਰਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ। ਸੋ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਸਿਖਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ? ਜਿੱਥੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਹੈਗਾ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਨਾ ਉਦੋਂ ਸਿਖਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਕੂਲ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸਟਾਰਟ ਕਰਨ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਬੇਸ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਦੱਸਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ। ਆਪਾਂ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਛੋਟੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਾਂਗੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਾਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਦਿਆਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਟੋਰੀਆਂ ਦੱਸਾਂਗੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਅਰਲੀ ਏਜ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੱਸਾਂਗੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਦੋਂ ਫਿਰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਉਹ ਜੋਸ਼ ਆ ਜਾਣਾ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਜਜ਼ਬਾ ਆ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਆਪਣੀ ਲਾਈਫ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਚੈਲੰਜ ਆ ਜਾਵੇ ਉਹ ਫਿਰ ਤਿਆਰ ਹੋ ਗਏ for that challenge because they will have heard of all of our history, they will be reflecting upon that. ਤਾਂ ਜੇ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਸਾਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਦਿਆਂ ਵਰਗੇ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਲਈ ਪੈਦਾ ਹੋਣ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਰਗੇ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਬਣਨ, ਸੂਰਵੀਰ ਆਗਿਆਕਾਰੀ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੱਕੇ ਹੋਣ, ਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਛੋਟੀ ਉਮਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਕੂਲ ਜਾਣ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕਰਨੀ ਪੈਣੀ ਆ ਆਪਣੀ ਹਿਸਟਰੀ ਬਾਰੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵਿਦਿਆ ਦਾ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਪਏਗਾ। ਨਾਲ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਮਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਡਰ ਆਪਣਾ ਫੇਰ ਕੱਢਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ, ਖਤਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਵਾਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ। ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦੇਵਾਂਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਤੇ ਚੱਲਣਗੇ ਹਨਾ। ਸੋ ਇਟਸ ਰੀਅਲੀ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਮਨ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਟਰੋਂਗ ਬਣਾਉਣੇ ਹੈਗੇ। ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਦੱਸਾਂਗੇ। ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਫੋਰਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ, ਜ਼ਬਰਦਸਤੀ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਛਕਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ, ਗਲਤ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ। ਪਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਦੇ ਮਨ ਕਰੇ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਛਕਣਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਰੋਕਣਾ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਸੰਸਕਾਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਸੰਸਕਾਰ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਛਕਣ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ। ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਦਦ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਕਰਨੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਸਿਖਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਅਤੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਉੱਪਰ ਭਰੋਸਾ ਵੀ ਰੱਖੀਏ, ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਵੀ ਵਾਲੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਲਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ। So ਆਪਾਂ as a mother we've got a duty to do everything. We're going to instill those values in that child, and by instilling them at an early age, that's how they're going to grow up. ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਉਹ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਿਰ ਰਹਿਣਗੇ ਨਾ।
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ, ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ। ਤਾਂ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ। ਦਲਵਿੰਦਰ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮਾਤਾ ਗੁਜਰ ਕੌਰ ਦੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਬਾਰੇ। ਤਾਂ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ, it's amazing to learn about Mata Gujarji's contribution to our Sikhi, and we cannot forget such a sacrifice and such a strength of character. In Reboot Punjab program, we talk about Train a Teacher initiative by the Galgitar Trust, which combines value-based education and spirituality to produce good global citizens and compassionate individuals. Paramjit ਭੈਣ ਜੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਜੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਦਵਾਂਗੇ, ਧੁਰ ਤੋਂ ਦਵਾਂਗੇ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਛਕਣਾ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਦੇ ਵੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਦੇਈਏ ਤਾਂ ਰੁਕਣਾ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ, ਤਾਂ ਬੱਚਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਮਨ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ, ਰੁਕਣਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ, ਹੈ ਨਾ। ਸੋ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ, ਇਹ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ। ਤਾਂ ਬੱਚਾ ਇਕੱਲਾ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਇਨਫਲੂਐਂਸ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਆ, ਜਾਂ ਮਾਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਸਿੱਖਿਆ ਦਊਗੀ, ਜਾਂ ਦਾਦੀ ਦਊਗੀ, ਜਾਂ ਨਾਨੀ, ਜਾਂ ਭੂਆ, ਜਾਂ ਮਾਸੀਆਂ, ਇਹ ਸਾਰਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਰਿਸਪੋਂਸਿਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਆ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਲਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ, ਤਾਂ ਕੰਟਰੀਬਿਊਸ਼ਨ ਦੇਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ। Benji, it's amazing to learn about Mata Gujjar Kaur's contribution to our Sikhi, and we cannot forget such a sacrifice and strength of character. In Reboot Punjab, we talk about a trainer-teacher initiative by the Galgitar Trust, which combines value-based education with spirituality to produce global citizens and compassionate individuals. This spiritual education by the Trust is where we learn and celebrate these strong Sikh role models like Mata Gujjar Kaur, Mata Kivi Ji and Bibi Nanaki Ji. ਤਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਜਸਵੰਤ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ, ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਮਾਵਾਂ ਘਰ ਦੇਖਦੀਆਂ ਹੋਣਗੀਆਂ ਮਦਰਸ ਡੇ ਤੇ, what would you like to say to them today, ਭੈਣ ਜੀ ਜਸਵੰਤ ਭੈਣ ਜੀ?
Anji. Well, first of all, I'd like to say Happy Mother's Day to all the kind of mothers watching, and to say that it shouldn't just be the one day. Mother's Day and a happy Mother's Day should be celebrated every day of the year. And I know we have a special day, and that's absolutely fine. You know, it's important, because sometimes we all have to take a step back, don't we? We have such busy lives, and we sometimes don't remember the roles we play. And I often kind of think to all of the mothers around me, because I'm a mother. I have 2 children. I have a son who is actually going to turn 18 this week, and my daughter's 20. And when people kind of, you know, ask you your roles, it's interesting, isn't it? When some women will kind of say they are mothers, some will say they are housewives, some they will say they are lawyers or they are teachers. But one of the roles we all have, whether you have given birth to those children or not, is that our role is fundamentally that of being mothers to all in the community, to all in society. It doesn't matter, because we are teaching those kind of values, and the values that Sikhism teaches us. And we've talked about it, haven't we? Being compassionate, being honest, being generous, having humility as well. These are all great kind of character traits that we shouldn't just read about. We should be able to practice them. And all those kind of mothers who sometimes don't realise that they do pass on these good values. They do pass on the kind of values of spirituality and kind of service. It's important to step back and recognise that. Because we all do it without knowing it. I lost my mother nearly 3 years ago, sadly, and I miss her every single day desperately. And knowing what the kind of value of a mother is when you don't have them around anymore. Even though you appreciate them when they are there, the kind of depth of teaching that our mothers teach us, and as you're saying, be they our puas or our masis or our tais or our chachis and our beloved daddies and nannies, you know, all of them play a role as kind of mothers. And appreciating that role is something we must value and cherish as we go through these difficult times. As we go through these difficult times during the pandemic and during lockdown, these are roles that others look towards mothers. You know, as Benji was kind of talking about, mothers being the kind of fabric of our society, of being the kind of foundation stone of our families. Our families are built on mothers. They're built on strong women, as Benji was talking about, Mataji. They are built on those women who kind of led by example. And our mothers, as mothers, you know, all of us, we juggle our roles. We have to be, you know, a mother who is sharing her pain with other mothers. We have to be a mother who is advising, who is teaching. We have to be a mother who is giving and caring and loving. We have to be a mother who is stepping back. So we were talking about not forcing our children into education. We have to be a mother who is showing the right way, showing the right path to being a decent member of society. So the roles of mothers and all those mothers who are out there, I would say, don't diminish your role. The role is really fundamental. It's absolutely kind of critical to ensuring that we have a civilized society. It's absolutely critical to ensure that we teach the next generation those kind of values. And I think we, as mothers, all of us, and as I say again, whether or not you have children, you are playing a motherly role, because it is about giving, it's about sharing, it's about compromising, and it's about loving and providing that love unconditionally, which is the most important thing. So celebrate Mother's Day, celebrate International Women's Day. I always say, wave the flag, beat your drum, do tell others it's a really important job, because we must kind of say that. Don't hide in the corner. Don't take it as something which is a burden. It's not, it's a blessing. And it's a blessing which we must kind of take forward. And I think I'll take something just from the Guru Granth Sahib, as it's kind of said, we are conceived and born from women. Woman is our lifelong friend and keeps the race going. Why should we despise her, the one who gives birth to great men? So, you know, what's that saying effectively? You know, where we are everywhere as mothers, as women. It's an important role. We are not secondary, we are equal. That's what our Sikh tradition teaches. And we must continue to kind of say that. It's as relevant now as it always has been. And that's why the kind of Sikh faith appeals to me. And I kind of value it so much because of its concepts of equality and the concept of education, which is so deeply rooted in Sikh beliefs, because it shapes the way we live our lives. And, you know, that's what we are as Sikhs. We are disciples, we are students, we are followers, we learn. And as mothers, we do all of that. So, you know, all my kind of blessings to all the kind of mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day and a happy International Women's Day.
Thank you, Benji.
Thank you.
ਸੰਗਤ ਜੀ, ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਵੂਮਨਸ ਡੇ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀਗੀ ਤਾਂ ਮਦਰਸ ਡੇ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ. Thank you, Benji, to all the Benji, Dalvinder, Panesar, Paramjit, Mandier, and our special guest who joined us today, Jaswant, Narwal, Chief Crown Prosecutor, for being part of this special show, representing today's women and acknowledging our strong, inspirational Sikh women on International Women's Day and Mother's Day. We are approaching the end of the show, and Reboot Punjab focuses on raising awareness around Train a Teacher. This is the initiative of the Kolkata Trust to sponsor the education fees of underprivileged girls who are trained at Eternal University to become teachers. These girls have already been students at Guru Sahib via the Sponsor a Child program, so this is the next step for them to be able to become teachers. The Kolkata Trust provides free education, teacher training and spiritual rejuvenation and 100% employment to these girls once their education is completed through a placement at one of the 129 schools. So right now, Sangat ji, we need teachers to teach children in the 129 schools and expand the education of underprivileged children across Punjab. ਸਾਨੂੰ ਟੀਚਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਹ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਅੰਡਰਪ੍ਰਿਵਿਲੇਜਡ ਕੁੜੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਜਾਂ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਐਕਸਪੈਂਡ ਕਰੀਏ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ. The Kolkata Trust Guru Sahib started in 1986 ਤਾਂ ਉਦੋਂ ਸਿਰਫ 5 ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟ ਸੀ So since then, it has grown to global representation with 129 schools, 3 universities, 1 hospital, 3 drug rehabilitation centres, and it provides education to 70,000 children. We need more teachers to carry on expanding this education across Punjab. To find out more about the work that the Galgitar Trust is doing with underprivileged children in Punjab and surrounding areas, please visit www.educatetosave.com or look at the information provided on screen. So Sangat ji, we are looking at today's women's warriors. So please come forward and support the Seva to train a teacher initiative. ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦਸਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਾਈਡ ਕਰਦਾ underprivileged children ਵਾਸਤੇ. We will get Punjab to support itself and stand on its own feet. ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਦਿਨ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਵੂਮਨਸ ਡੇ ਮੰਨਿਆ ਸੀਗਾ, ਅਸੀਂ ਮਦਰਸ ਡੇ ਮੰਨਿਆ ਸੀ, ਤਾਂ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਮਾਵਾਂ ਭੈਣਾਂ ਮਾਸੀਆਂ ਮਾਮੀਆਂ ਦਾਦੀਆਂ ਨਾਨੀਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਮੰਨਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ. Those women's roles who provide education and support to these children growing up, who instill Sikhi while children are growing up. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for the Panjis for always providing their time and seva and contribution to the show. Ta aao assi sare gaj ke boliye.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ
Waheguru ji ka khalsa, Waheguru ji ki fateh.